Right. And then your daughter did actually die a few years later, but before that, your wife...
Yes.
Your wife, Bernadette, was diagnosed with cancer.
Bernadette was... Stevie was probably 6.5, 7 years old when Bernadette, was diagnosed with cancer. And
it must have been a huge blow when that happened, to have already a handicapped daughter and then this to hit you.
I felt throughout the life of Stevie and throughout these problems that we had with Bernard that I was living in now, this moment, not 5 minutes before, not 5 minutes time. I was living now. I was, and just dealing with what was happening to me in the present. It was the only way I could survive this experience. And I remember feeling almost apologetic, saying, I think we need help, in a hospital, because there was one moment when they were both in hospital in different wards, and there was just me running between them. We did have domestic help, which was, we could not have brought her up in the way we did without a strong level of domestic support from, we had a Filipina maid who was lovely, who was a friend.
Right.
But to go back to Bern, yes, I think that the problems that we had with Stevie led her in some ways to develop cancer. I don't know how, but I felt that was an element.
It was a stressful thing for her.
It was very stressful for her.
But I know you told me that when she was diagnosed with cancer, the big difficulty for you was you didn't know what to do. And you were searching around books, and you went to the Hong Kong library, and it was very limited what you could find information-wise.
Well, initially, what my first experience with setting up the charities with Stevie taught me was that you can do something for yourself. And so that was very important for me.
Yes.
To go, there was a Hong Kong Cancer Fund office. They did have a library. It was quite well stocked, in fact, better stocked than any bookshop in Britain at that time, because they had a lot of books from America. I started reading, but the situation proceeded much faster than I could possibly inform myself of. So she'd already had the operation before I thought maybe an operation isn't the right way to go about it. Then radiation, then chemotherapy. Already, I always felt that we were 2-3 steps behind where we should have been to make informed decisions.
Yes.
Yes.
And you actually, I know that from what you've told me again previously, that you've actually written here the book you wished had existed at the time.
Absolutely. I think anybody who... We all think we know what cancer is.
Yes.
Cancer is a word that we're familiar with. But what is cancer? And when you get cancer, suddenly you think, oh, actually I don't know anything about it. That's the truth. And you start reading. And I was looking for, on the one hand, the doctors were saying, look, surgery, radiation, chemotherapy, these are the weapons that you need to think about. Forget vitamins, forget diets.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I was reading books that I felt were quite persuasive about the potential merits of various supplements, various food additives, or what have you. Even machines. And I thought, right, perhaps that's the way to go. Actually, my wife Bernadette was not interested in those alternative ways at all. She wanted to do what the doctors...
Okay. She saw them as the experts.
That's what she said to me.
Yeah.
She said, do you know more than the doctors know?
Yeah.
I had to admit that I didn't know anything at all approaching what the doctors knew, but somehow there was another side, and we never got that together. We never solved that conundrum at the time during her life. There was no book that I found that would say, look, here are the facts. Here's the mainstream, here's the alternative, this is what this does, this is what that does. there were books that looked at the alternatives, and there were books that looked at the mainstream, but there was nothing that tried to link these two together in some coherent view, and that's what I felt I needed to do.
And unfortunately what happened is after a year, Bernadette did die.
Bernadette did die, yes.
And again, I think you write in one of your books that you felt that she couldn't have died faster if you'd done nothing, let alone go to the doctors.
There is an argument for saying that you, I mean, some statisticians have calculated, you know, looked at all the information, that you do much better not doing anything than doing serious interventions, that you live 4 times longer. You
were determined not to let that information that you'd been researching go to waste.
It wasn't... Sorry, I'm interrupting you, but actually I still felt lost. I mean, I didn't feel that I'd even begun to get on top of the problem. But what I had learnt was that I myself was at risk, serious risk, of getting cancer myself.
Really? So
yes.
Okay, yeah.
Just as we all are at serious risk. The figure that the cancer charities are putting out at the moment is 1 in 3. Actually, in America in 2002, the head of the National Cancer Institute already said 50% of men and 40% of women are at risk of getting cancer at some time in their life. So
that's a very scary percentage.
It is very scary. So I thought, well, am I going to suffer as Bernadette suffered? Am I going to go through surgery and radiation and chemotherapy? Am I, you know, is this just the way it goes? Or what? I need an answer for myself. So I started reading, and I read, I would say, 200 plus books, and none of these books really attempted to do the linkage, and I think there's a political reason for that. They just didn't want, on the alternative side, they did not wish to touch the mainstream. They did not wish to explore that area.
Right, yeah.
And I felt that that was important. It was important to itemize precisely what was going on. What was wrong with surgery? What was right about surgery? What's right about radiation? What's wrong about radiation? Chemotherapy. Where is chemotherapy good? Where is it not good? Research. What's happening in research? They're pouring millions into research. Where are the results? So I wanted to look at all those questions and to analyze, and I feel that I came up with some answers that were valid for myself. Right? I have to say, I'm not an expert on anything.
But it's interesting because what you're saying is, in a way, you started off writing the book in one way for yourself.
Yes.
Because you thought you might get cancer, and you thought, well, I've already started this process, and I've lost my wife, so why not keep going as a project, and I help myself, and maybe I help an awful lot of other people, and that's a great motive.
Yeah, that is precisely my motive, yes. It was to inform myself, so I knew what was going to go on, that if my son got cancer, that I would know what decisions to make that would be sensible. And if I've got all this information, then really, that's the lesson that I learnt with going from Stevie to setting up the associations that we set up. I mean, I set up 2 in the end. Was the giving was released an enormous energy, and so that's really what I feel I'm doing. I put my book on the web free of charge because I couldn't get a publisher initially, but I felt the information should be made available, so I just put it up, and it was there free of charge on my website. And it's only recently that I've been able to solve that question of getting it more widely available in book form, which is more convenient for people to read.